Whatever it takes, the tribe must survive. Thank you to Starbreeze Entertainment for sponsoring this video. If you like what you see, you can go and pick up The Tribe Must Survive using the link in the description or the pinned comment. Today I'm going to tell a story of how I attempt to safeguard my tribe from the darkness and prevent them falling victim to the despair or the unknown horrors of the night.
Whatever it is that lurks in the dark, it was about to get us. Everything happened so fast. Many were taken before we could sound the horn. The fire was our only hope. We had stocked up, wood and food and everything else, but we had not prepared against the shadows within. When tension turned to carnage, we fled into the night. Aimless we ran, for days, through a blur of darkness and fog, death all around us. When suddenly, the fog lifted, and the light came back. At least for now. Those shadows will return. Prepare. We have to survive.
After searching and running for several days and nights, we found a suitable location in which to make a camp. We lit a small fire, huddled around it, and tried to forget the last few weeks. There were 6 of us left at this point. Myself, Steve, Sarah, Richard, Julia, Ginger, and Maggie. We found ourselves surrounded by darkness, mist, and wilderness. We could barely remember from which direction we had come. We remembered so very little. But we did remember that the area around us was broken into 7 distinct sectors. We were situated centrally, 6 regions surrounded us, there was a swirling storm, and we imagined that these sectors would be inaccessible to us for some time. Nevertheless, this central area appeared as safe as any other, so we set to work. First, we had to construct several lumber camps and designate an area to store materials. This was a simple enough task, and there was no arguing between us. Everyone was very tired. Julia, Ginger, Sarah and myself immediately set to work once the lumber camps were constructed. We would need wood for the fire, and the fire must never go out. Next, we constructed a granary, as it was likely that we would have to forage for food in the morning, and it seemed prudent to have something prepared. Finally, we also decided to set Maggie to work gathering wood. Better that than she sits around while the rest of us work. Nightfall came quickly, and we blew the night horn, a traditional call to let everyone know the darkness was on us, and to get back into the light. We all gathered around the campfire. We still had 2 small tasks to complete. We built a hunter's hall and assigned Richard to take our single spear. It would be his job to find us meat to eat in the morning. And finally, our last task was to construct a small tent to give us shelter for the night. As soon as the tent was constructed, we all hit the head and went to sleep. Our first night in this new land was fortunately fleeting. We awoke several hours later, nothing had disturbed our sleep, and our second day began in earnest. Richard was up early and began hunting. He quickly found a flock of sickly-looking deer, which were skinny but would nevertheless sustain us. We were overcome with joy being able to consume fresh meat for the first time in weeks. The rest of us continued on with our duties of gathering wood. It was imperative that the fire did not go out. It was midway through the night of day 4 when we came across another tribesman. We had constructed more shelter than we needed. Fortunate, as in the middle of the night a new guy approached. We gave him shelter and set him to work gathering wood. He would be known thereon as New Guy. Within only several hours, another newbie also arrived at our site. We again welcomed them with open arms and also set her to work gathering wood. The night horn soon rang out and thus closed another day on this earth. Day 5 began with the construction of a stone pit. We knew that we would needed stone to construct better dwellings, and we were fortunate. for with only an hour of construction, another tribesperson appeared. We called him Rocky, and they immediately set to work mining stone. The days were tumbling behind us, and our tribe was growing. Perhaps we could survive the darkness and forge a new life for us after all. Day 6 brought another tribesman, who we also assigned to collecting stone. We used these new materials to construct a farm and plant some crops. It was likely that Richard would run out of animals to hunt sooner or later, and we needed a more sustainable food source. In the early hours of day 7, Farmhand showed up. She would be assigned to tending the sweet corn that we were growing. It would appear that our tribe was coming along nicely. Everyone was getting along with one another. There was no infighting and no fear. We were making great progress. Later that afternoon, we built our first beacon, another precious source of light. We placed it in the north of the camp near the forest, with the hope that we could continue to gather wood, even in darkness. This day also heralded the construction of a spirit lodge. We would need to assign a shaman, but given our positive experiences so far, we wish to thank the gods for all that they do for us, providing the fire and keeping us safe from darkness. Another night passed without incident, until at dawn, a nervous wanderer approached near the edge of our camp. He was asking for shelter in exchange for knowledge. A fair trade, perhaps, but Rocky too recognized him from a previous time. According to Rocky 2, he was a brilliant spiritualist, but he had a fragile mind that caused him to break down and do some terrible things. Rocky refused to speak about the details of what happened. Clearly, it was a traumatizing event. The stranger pleaded to be let in, begging for another chance. This decision fell to me, but the way Rocky looked at me, pleading not to allow this man in, made my decision for me. The stranger was turned away and sent back into the darkness. He would likely not last the night. We continued on with our work. Wood, food, and stone needed to be gathered. The fire must not go out. At midnight on the 9th day, there was a commotion. Sarah, while chopping wood, had dropped her axe in stunned silence by what she had seen on a tree. The tree bark had formed a shape that looked like an eye. Underneath the eye, the trunk was smeared with blood. Everyone, including myself, was uncomfortable under this eye's stare, but there was disagreement on what should be done. Some wished to give the tree some more blood, assuming that that is what it wanted. Others wished to be done with it and cut the tree down. Despite the overarching fear that would be caused by keeping the tree, I did not wish to anger the gods, for surely they were the one who created the eye on the tree in the first place. And as such, we decided to sacrifice a little blood to the tree and hope that we satiated the gods' thirst. On the evening of the 9th day, I thought it prudent, given the success that we had experienced and the event with the bloody tree, to hold a ritual at our newly built spirit lodge. I noticed that both Richard and Julia were acting a little strangely. Richard's eyes were glowing, at least to me, red. Perhaps this would help ward off the evil spirits. We sung, chanted and danced. Blessed be the gods. By day 12, we were up to 14 tribal members from our original 6, and we had not lost anyone for 2 weeks. Our successors were pulling in more and more tribespeople. This, while fantastic, was a burden. More mouths to feed. We continued to build beacons to shield us from the darkness. We were doing well. Our food supplies were plentiful. Farmhand and Richard were working hard. I wished we had more lumber. We burnt through it so quickly. Suddenly, the shaman rushed over to me. A message from the gods. We would experience an eclipse in exactly 5 days' time. Day would become night. There would be no sunlight, just the light we could create from our fires. We would have to work overtime. We must keep the wood stocked up, lest the fire go out. Whether this news freaked Richard out, I do not know, but he continues to be acting strange. His eyes continue to glow red, and he has started wandering into the darkness. I hope we can pull him back into the light. I ordered another ritual be held. We must come together in this moment of strife. At the end of day 12, Farmhand came to me. She had discovered one of the plants in her field had yielded an exceptionally large sweet corn, far bigger than the other plants. We had two choices. We could use them as food now, or replant them and hopefully reap the rewards in the next harvest. Given that the eclipse was on the horizon, I thought it prudent to take the food now. We needed to keep our stockpiles high, and we had no idea how long we would be without sunlight. As such, we added these exceptionally large sweet corn to our food stocks. I was beginning to notice more of the camp acting strangely. Ginger and Maggie were acting odd indeed, also wandering into the dark. I could not help them. I did not understand what they needed, but I did know what we needed to do. We had to keep working. We had to continue to stockpile wood and food. The fire must not go out. The eclipse would come for us soon. We now had sufficient beacons that we could work through the night, but they required more wood to burn, and I think we're falling behind. At midnight on day 15, I called another ritual. Ginger and Sarah continued to behave abnormally. I hoped that this would help them. We needed all hands on deck. I was happy with our food supply, but our wood stocks were beginning to be burnt as quickly as we refilled them. Midway through day 15, a twisted figure arrived at our camp. This old woman looked ancient, with hair like silver and deep wrinkles on her face. She moved as if she was no heavier than a feather, and the grass barely bent under her feet. She spoke to us, saying, "We meet again, or is this the first time? You all look the same to me. Nevertheless, you should feel lucky, as I'm inclined to come to you for help. I require 100 food in 3 days' time, and you will be rewarded for supplying it to me. Do you accept this offer?" As much as I would have liked to accept her offer, in 3 days' time we would be right in the middle of the eclipse, and I did not wish to risk my tribespeople on a gamble such as this, so sadly I declined her offer. By the end of day 15 we had a full complement of people. 18 tribesmen and women now toiled on behalf of our camp. Everyone was pulling together. I believed that we could do this. Day 17 marked the beginning of the eclipse. The sun disappeared, and a strange mist was building up around us. The light of the fire would protect us, but there was something in this darkness, in the mist, waiting for the flame to go out, hungry for us. We must not let the fire go out. It was in these dark times I made an error. Fear was clearly beginning to affect my people, but wood supplies were running low. I made the decision to hold an eclipse ritual in order to strengthen my people's resolve. During our celebrations, I turned out the beacons in order to conserve firewood, and we celebrated our survival so far. We thanked the gods, and we came together as a people. We danced, we sung, and we chanted. But it was after the ritual we fell to ruin. I could not find the beacons to relight them. Without the beacons, we could not harvest wood, and without the wood, our fire would go out, and we would all surely perish. Then, the first demon came. It swept up another newbie in a heartbeat, and he was gone, taken into the darkness. Sarah and Ginger were next, swept up without a sound. I ordered all the beacons be lit, an emergency. It was a state of panic. We had not kept up with our wood production. We had barely anything left, and now all of our fires burnt brightly. Alas, this was my final mistake. Within minutes, we had burned through our remaining fuel supply, and then suddenly, it all went dark. Richard was taken first, and then what followed was terror incarnate. Our tribespeople were taken one by one. We could not relight the fire. We could not find the trees to get the fuel. We could merely huddle together and hope that we would not be next. I was the last one, left alone in the darkness. This is my story. I hope you fare better than I. Thanks for watching, folks, and thanks again to Starbreeze for sponsoring the video. If you want to pick up the game, then please click the link in the pinned comment or the description. And if you want to hear more from me, then please click the video on screen now.